Everybody, thank you for coming out at 8 a.m. on the fourth day of PIA. My name is Sherry Butcher, and I'm excited to be here as part of the USPA Rewrite Task Force. We want to welcome you to this forum. The seminars at PIA have a long history of introducing equipment, safety and training advancements, and today is no different. The SIM is a member-driven effort that's a result of a highly collaborative group of USPA members, examiners, instructors, headquarters staff, and board members. And it is a long-awaited and much-needed update, but I don't think I had to tell you that. The USPA Rewrite Task Force and all of the experts involved in the subcommittees obviously love skydiving and love USPA. We consider it a privilege to be part of this significant move forward, and we're really proud to be able to present to you today a modern and professional Skydivers Information Manual for all USPA members and drop zones. The task force and all the experts involved in the subcommittees obviously love skydiving. The 9 members of the task force, 2 of them couldn't be here today, provided a breadth of experience that spanned all instructional methods and were from both large and small drop zones. Yet we never found a difference of opinion that we could not overcome for the good of the project. And we considered it to be a privilege to be part of this and proud to put forward such a good and innovative product for you. Now let's introduce our task force. Brandon Radcliffe is a coach examiner, drop zone manager at Skydive Sebastian, USPA board member, and the lead of the Rewrite Task Force. Dr. Jen Sharp is an examiner rating course director, a coach in tandem and AFF examiner, and USPA director of technology. Ron Bell is a coach, tandem, and AFF examiner, FAA rigger and pilot, and the USPA director of safety and training. Rob Laidlaw is an examiner rating course director, coach and AFF examiner, owner and founder of Skydive University. And the 2 members that couldn't be here today, Darlene Kellner is an IAD and coach examiner, drop zone owner, and holds a master's in education. Michael Watkins is an examiner in all of the disciplines, an FAA rigger, and the chair of the Safety and Training Committee. Brian Naiman is a coach and AFF designated evaluator, DZO and DZM at Skydance Skydiving, the USPA Pacific Regional Director. And Mel Schock, coach examiner, master's in education with over 20 years experience, and the operations manager at iFly Colorado Springs.
And because Sherry couldn't introduce herself, we also, as you know, have Sherry Butcher. She probably doesn't need an introduction. She's the coach and AFF examiner, FAA master rigger, skydiving museum board trustee, USPA vice president, and the drop zone owner at Air Ohio Skydiving. We also had a great deal of input from the following folks. I'll leave it up for a second. I won't read all their names. But many of these people contributed a great deal of information. We recognize that when we were all examiners, we're not experts in every area. And so these are the people upon whom we rely to provide us with a lot of information. We very much appreciate them, as well as the members of the USPA headquarters staff who helped us put the entire book together. So we have a few questions today, as you're reading that. We'd like to know, who has seen the new SIM? Oh, that's fabulous. How many of you brought one? Who is a student? No students? Do we have any coaches? Instructors? Examiners? Any DCOs? Excellent. So as we figured out this project, we really wanted to make sure we had a chance to market the sim, give you a reason to open it, and help you to understand that it is very new, and that going forward, it'll look a lot different. We also had several people who contributed to some subcommittees for the IRM, which is in the process of a rewrite. We're going to give you a little sneak peek today. We don't have a ton to show you because we're still just getting started, but we did put together committees to broaden the knowledge depth that we had. And these are the members of the committees. We had a coach subcommittee led by Rob Laidlaw. Michael Watkins led the IAD and static line teams. Sherry was the team lead for the AFF subcommittee, and then Ron Bell led the tandem committee.
So the beauty of this project and the reason that we believe that these USPA manuals are going to be so widely accepted is because we're able to reach out nationally and internationally and bring these people in for consulting and making sure that we had the most up-to-date training methods being added to the SIM and the IRM. The next thing I want to do is I can't tell you how great it feels to get where we are now without starting with a little history. So I want to give you a brief history on the origin of the SIM and the integrated student program. Okay, so back in 1957, Jacques Estelle, D2, put together the first 10 procedures and safety regulations. The name changed to Basic Safety Regulations in 1960, and an additional 8 BSRs were added. In 1963, recommendations were also added. And then for the next 20 years, the board created policy and recommendations, and they were kept at USPA in little one-page training and information sheets. They called them parts. Well, initially SOPs and then called them parts for a long time. And as the board approved these, they just stacked up. They'd make thousands of copies, keep them at USPA, and when a static line instructor or a course director was trying to put together a course, he would call into USPA, say, I need part number 5, 7, 12, 50, whatever those all are, and I need however many copies for the course candidates. USPA would put them in an envelope in packets and send them out. That was the only way at the time that the most up-to-date information could get out to USPA members who were candidates in static line instructor courses. In 1982, Mike Johnston was hired as the first director of training at USPA, and during his tenure, he was responsible for some of putting those packets together, sending them out, updating them on a regular basis, all of the parts, and keeping it organized at USPA. Eventually, he decided something had to change, and he began to organize the training information sheets and the rules into a 3-ring binder that could easily be updated. It was named the Skydiver Information Manual, and the first SIM was finished at the end of 1987, and it was released in 1988. Now, I was lucky to sit down with Mike last night when we were walking around, and he brought with him a stack of historical books, and one of them was the very first SIM. It was really cool to look through, and just so interesting. The SIM expanded over the years as more information developed for the AFF and the tandem program, and it became the go-to manual for what you needed to know and understand about skydiving procedures. And that was for students, licensed jumpers, instructors, anybody that was skydiving. One-stop shopping was the SIM. Then in the 1990s, the integrated student program began development under the direction of Mike Truffer. He was the chair of the Safety and Training Committee, and also involved was Chris Needles. He was the executive director of USPA at the time. Kevin Gibson and Madeline Murdoch, who were both members of the board at the time, worked to detail the training methods for static line, tandem, and AFF, and align them for the beginnings of the ISP. Kevin Gibson resigned from the USPA board in 1987 and became USPA's Director of Communications. He worked closely with Chris Needles while he was writing the ISP program. But Chris Needles provided the guardrails and the focus of the ISP, and including the name. He came up with the name for it. Now, Rob Laidlaw and Roger Nelson deserve credit for the content of the ISP. Roger and Rob both expanded their own individual programs to 20 jump programs from the 7 jump AFF program years before USPA did. And I remember Roger telling me years ago that, if you present a 20 jump program to a student and that's their goal, then they hang around and they come back and they do 20 jumps because they want to meet that goal. Brilliant. But the meat of the ISP jumps, the coach jumps, came from Rob and Skydive University. Thank you. Rob in particular was the one who put some science and psychology into the system of coaching, and had a progression for learning skydiving skills. The ISP was approved by the USPA board in 2000 and was added to the 2001 SIM as the recommended student training. As an aside, with permission, when Kevin was putting together this program, we stole shamelessly from both Roger and Rob to get the best that the industry had to offer to put together a much stronger minimum standard for the new USPA A license. And thank goodness we did, because it built a nice foundation for everything we have done since then. It was about the same time that the IRM was being developed and the rating course training information was split off into the IRM. Those were big steps forward for that time, but a lot has changed in the last 25 years. So today we're going to show you USPA's commitment to progress and serving its members. We are announcing 3 things today: the advancements and changes in the 2025 SIM, the reorganization and change in purpose of the IRM, and to introduce the examiner evaluator manual that's being designed to improve the quality of instruction for the entire grading hierarchy. And we are excited about all of it. So we want to share with you the team's progress so far, but more importantly, we would like you to pay attention and to show you the integration and alignment of the content between the manuals and the A license progression card. And as we continue in this process, updating the manuals, what we really hope is that all of you will lean into this project with us. We can only make it better if you give us feedback and tell us what we missed and what we can make better. We've made a lot of great changes to the SIM, but we already have a list of improvements for 2026. So please help us make it better. Send us your feedback as you work with the book and work with your students using it, so that we can get those integrated as we do revisions. So I feel like it is an extraordinary time to be a skydiver, especially a new skydiver. And it is so fun to work in the future and for the future. So let's see what we've done.
This is the cover of the new sim. It doesn't look a whole lot different on the outside, but if you've picked it up, you've noticed it's a lot thinner. That was one of our goals, was to condense it down and make it more usable by making it a little less bulky. And you'll notice that here are some things that we changed. The ISP is now student-centered. Before, with the bullet points, if you didn't have the vocabulary of skydiving, it was pretty hard to follow along. So the things in the ISP were really guides for instructors and coaches about what they needed to teach. It was more of an outline of what you had to teach. Now the ISP is directed completely at the student. You can actually hand it to them, and they can read it and learn something whether they had any prior knowledge. We did a really bold reorganization of the sim. We're going to go over details of that here in a few minutes, but we got rid of the title of sections and now they're chapters, and there are far fewer of them. We talked to the experts, as we said before, and got some recommendations. A lot of sections hadn't been updated in a very long time. You'll notice that canopy is quite a bit different. There's expanded stuff for wingsuits. We'll go more into that in depth, but we updated the information by talking to the people who are experts in those areas. The IRM is going to be much expanded. We're going to talk a little bit more about that at the end, a little teaser. There will be a teacher's guide for teaching the first jump course. And then there's the all new ratings examiner and evaluator manual that Sherry referred to. So how this project started. That's you. Yeah. I'm sorry, I started to keep going.
That's okay. So how the project started. Excuse me. How the project started. In about August of 23, the board put together a canopy task force with the goal of just reviewing all of the canopy skills in the ISP, the B license, maybe a C and D license stuff, and just kind of taking a look, going, you know, maybe it's time to look at everything and make it better. The members of that task force were Jen Sharp, Brandon Radcliffe, Angie Aragon, Jeannie Bartholomew. Our newest member is Oleg Priadko, and myself. And what we did is we first reviewed all of the ISP canopy skills. We reviewed the A license progression card to make sure that everything that was already in the sim was added to the card, and then also added some more canopy skills. We reviewed the B license canopy card and what the jumps included on that, what skills people were doing for the B license. We defined canopy flight emergency procedures, and if you are not familiar with those, you're going to hear a lot about them in the sim and in the IRM. A canopy flight emergency is any emergency under a fully inflated parachute from opening to landing. So a canopy flight emergency procedure is a jumper's response to that emergency. We practice emergency procedures for malfunctions before every jump, right? We think about it, we're practicing pulling handles. If we have an emergency under a canopy, then we should be just as proficient at responding to that emergency as we are to a malfunction. And the only way we're going to do that is if we practice. So we wanted to label 5 skills that are considered canopy flight emergency procedures and encourage people to practice them at least once a month on a high pull or a hop and pop so that they can maintain proficiency. And that was where the Stay Alive Practice 5 initiative came from, that you may have heard last Safety Day, and that we've been trying to promote in parachutist throughout the last year, and will continue to do so. We also created a downsizing best practices card. And this downsizing best practices card was designed to help a self-assessment tool for jumpers and for SMTAs and canopy coaches to help check the readiness of somebody to change canopies. Broken into 3 places, and they're gonna have a QR code in a little while that you'll be able to pull it up and look at it if you haven't seen it already. But assessing what you need to do to decide if you're ready to downsize, what you need to do when you downsize, and then how are you gonna stay proficient after you downsize, which is gonna obviously include Stay Alive Practice 5 and make sure that you know your canopy flight emergency procedures. We're also gonna look in the future, we're looking at C&D license skills to earn a license later on to try to maintain that proficiency. Now this was all presented to the board about a year ago at the winter board meeting, and it was approved. And our goal at the time was to just integrate the skills into and teaching into the 2025 SIM and IRM. But soon after that meeting, after years of talking about the SIM rewrite, Brandon Radcliffe got the idea that we should finally move forward and let's just get this done. He got approval from President Chuck Akers to organize this task force, and it was like the perfect storm. Brandon organized the team and coordinated with headquarters. Jen Sharp and Ron already had a basic design in place, and Jen had already started putting the SIM into sentence form. So we already had a nice basis to start. And the Canopy Task Force no longer had to integrate their work into the old SIM. Instead, we shifted gears to the bigger project of the SIM and IRM rewrites. All the pieces came together with technology, people, time, commitment to the project, and the momentum launched us into a tight deadline in order to have the new SIM ready for publication for 2025. So all these decisions were made about 11 months ago, maybe, and this is what we came up with. So we've spent a lot of time working on it, and we're super happy about it. We've now moved on to the IRM, and we have a preliminary draft presented to the board for review, and we hope to get approval of concept on that at this coming meeting this weekend that starts on Saturday.